either. Golden rule number 5 is to grow to become the person you want to be. If not now, then when? Very often I find people going into professions or at a point in their life and they will say, as soon as my kids grow up, as soon as my boss drops dead, as soon as I win the lottery, as soon as I meet the right person. And if you're an as soon as person, you end up spending your whole life thinking that it's something out there. And I think that the last golden rule may be the most important, to grow to become the person that you want to be. And if your plan is to change who you are, you're going to have a lot of success in life. If your plan is to wait until the rest of the world changes for you, you're always going to be miserable. And I think of people in life that have suffered tremendous setbacks, and they've always been an inspiration for me for how they see their growth in life. I think of somebody like Christopher Reeve, who, when he broke his neck, he was a quadriplegic, and yet it was after that point that he probably made the greatest impact on humanity. Another one of my personal heroes was a catcher for the Brooklyn Dodgers, Roy Campanella. And he broke his neck and he was paralyzed for the rest of his life. And they say that some of the greatest acts that he was ever involved with were after that time. Even before he left the hospital, there was another man who had been paralyzed, and Roy is talking him out of suicide and telling him how much he had to live for. Maybe the bottom line in all this is not what life hands you, but what is it that you're going to do with what you've got? And again, if not now, then when will we grow to become the person that we want to be? So there's a couple of important things. First of all, we need to laugh at life's imperfections. We work with kids, they're going to give us brain damage, that's a fact. Forgive yourself when life doesn't go perfect for you, because it happens that way. And if you have a 90% day, well, gee, that's just an A day as well. Another thing we need to do is to drop our ego, because if we have too much ego, then we can never get around to apologizing and making things right for the people that we work with. Don't try to get even with the world. That's kind of a waste of time, but it is a national pastime. People are trying to get even with everybody, from the road rage to whatever's going on out there with our hostility. And remember that the only evidence of what you are, the only evidence of what you are is what you do, not what you say, not what you believe, but what you do in day-to-day acts. So, golden rule number 5, grow to become the person you want to be. And the last thing is, I think, we really have to think about life in such a way that if you're not getting done with your workday, most of the time, and you're not laughing, if you're not laughing, we got to reevaluate. Because there's a lot of joy in life. There's a lot of joy in what we do. And I don't think that it's without tension. I think there's a lot of tension out there, but there's a lot of joy in life. When I say, laugh at life's imperfections, kids will give you brain damage. I guarantee you they will give you brain damage. You're going to get plenty of it in your lifetime, and all of a sudden you're going to find yourself near retirement. You go, oh my God, where did all those brain cells go? And it's the kids. They do that to you. Some time ago, my sons were in Little League, and just to illustrate this a little bit, some time ago my kids were in Little League. You know what this is like when you bring in that fresh group of little kids that have never been in Little League before. And they've always got one kid that he can't throw the ball, he can't swing the bat. We had a little guy on our team, his name was Jeffy. Most beautiful little kid, coming with the hat's on sideways, the glove is on the wrong hand every day. He'd go to throw the ball and end up behind him, but he just loved baseball and he just loved being there. So that night, it's my job. I got to take Jeffy off all by myself. I'm the guy to work with Jeffy, because we'd always take a parent, It's your night to work with Jeffy. So I grab Jeffy, I take him off all by ourselves, away from everybody. Said, Jeffy, here's the deal, buddy. You're going to learn to throw that ball tonight. All right, here we go. I want you to take that ball, put your fingers right there on the seam. See it? Put your fingers on those seams like that. I want you to step with the opposite foot in the direction you want to throw. I want you to cock that baby off like that. I want you to follow through. Look at your target. Follow through. And I'm explaining this to Jeffy. What do you think, Jeffy? He's all happy. He's got his hat on sideways and everything. I hand him the ball. I'm so proud of Jeffy. And I take about 3 steps. And I start to see a twinkling of stars in front of my eyes. Which can happen when a flying trajectory makes contact with the back of one's skull. And I remember Jeffy had done exactly as I told him, step through and follow through. And he pasted me squarely in the back of my head with the ball as I'm walking away. And I always imagine what that must have looked like to everybody else watching this adult walk away and get hit. But my hat comes flying off, and I'm trying to find Jeffy over here, and all I saw is this little guy, and he's peering through his little baseball glove. He's like scared to death, because he just nailed me in the back of my head. Now, I contend, I don't think that Jeffy tried to give his coach brain damage. He did give me brain damage, and all I could do was laugh. And I got down on a knee. I was trying to find him through the haze and stuff. And I'm seeing all the stars after he hit me. And all I could do was laugh. And I'm thinking either because it was really funny or he just destroyed the right amount of brain cells that all I could do was laugh. But I'm sitting there laughing at Jeffy. And I always thought about that because you have a decision. I can come back and rip this kid to shreds because he just nailed me in the back of the head. And then what's that going to do to his connection to baseball? He's gone. He's out of this sport forever. He made a mistake and nailed his coach in the back of the head. It was just a mistake. It was just a mistake. And so there's a crossroad that we have when these kids do give us brain damage that we're going to taint them for life or we're going to keep them on their track when we do that. And, of course, when that happened to me, actually, I got hit in the back of the head. I did what any other adult would do. I looked around to see if anybody else saw it. And I looked, there was only one person watching that day. My mother had actually flown out from Colorado. She was in a lawn chair. She had already fallen out of her lawn chair, and all I could see was the feet kicking. And she's laughing hysterically at me after thanks, Mom, for supporting your son there. But kids are going to give you brain damage. You got to forgive yourself as well as forgive others. Give yourself a break. And what I have to say about forgiveness is this. Forgiveness doesn't mean that what you did is okay, or that we're going to be pals again, or that you're absolved of any guilt. But sometimes when people do you wrong, it might be people that you work with, might be people in your life, the only way you're going to move past it is if you forgive. You just let it go. You got to let it go. Otherwise, we can't get on with our lives. I mean, people hold these resentments for a lifetime. Strive for progress, not perfection. Drop the ego. In order to be effective with kids, we got to drop the ego. We got to drop it. We can't have too much ego. That need to win. Got to win. But I was right. A short time ago, my son and I had this discussion, and he says, because I apologized to somebody, and he said, but Dad, you were right. And I said, of course I was. But the relationship was more important than me having to scream at them that I'm right. I want the relationships to go. Now, you don't want to be a doormat for everybody, but there are certain times when it's okay to go and apologize. I think as I've gotten older, it's become easier. If there's tension between another person I work with, and I can just go, hey, I'm sorry if there was tension there. And at least, even if they don't receive it, if they're not receptive to it, at least I said my piece. Don't try to get even with the world. As I said, that's like a national pastime for some people, just getting even. Just going to get even with everybody. If the world appears rotten, angry, and hostile, it's because you see it that way. It's not because it's necessarily that way, but it's because you see it that way. And remember that what you do is the only evidence of what you are. This is a wonderful quote from Abraham Maslow. And I had it tacked up on my board outside my office. I used to put a quote of the day out there. And I noticed after a while I had all these pinholes in it because people would read it and say, oh, I love that, and read it again and again. It says, let people realize that every time they hurt someone, threaten someone, humiliate, unnecessarily, or dominate, they become forces for psychopathology, even if these be small forces. Let them recognize that everyone who is kind, helpful, decent, psychologically democratic, affectionate, or warm is a psychotherapeutic voice. I think everything we do is a force. Your meanness is a force. Your kindness is a force. It's a force. In the end, we have to realize that all of us have power. And even if you look at history and the most influential figures in human history, it's really not Stalin or Hitler, but it's those people who did not exercise power over people, but with people. And you think of Martin Luther King, and you think of Gandhi and Mother Teresa. What they did on a day-to-day basis was to have power with people instead of over people. And I think that we as human beings, we look and we say, well, gee, if I had $1 million, it'd be nice. Then I could give that to some wonderful foundation, or I could give that away to some cause. And you know what? Most of us aren't going to have like $1 million that we can do, but we're going to have 1 million opportunities that we can reach out and do some small thing for another human being. Millions of opportunities in our lifetime. And I feel so lucky in my lifetime to have had so many people that I've connected with and so many mentors. And I've come to believe that education is in those small, selfless acts, not in some large thing or some special talent or some special degree that people have. Leo Buscaglia once said, the opposite of love is not hate, it is apathy. And what I believe about that, what I love about that is that I agree, is that once we become apathetic, we stop seeing people in pain, we stop seeing people hurting, and we stop having the ability to help them out. Merle Shane said a wonderful thing, and he said, loving can cost a lot, but not loving costs a lot more. We need each other now, and we need to connect with each other now more than at any other time in human history. We need to stay connected to each other. We have to be careful because we get involved in this thing. Why should I care? Why? It doesn't make any difference. I was standing in a 10-item or less line, and you know what this is like? You know it's like Murphy's Law when you choose a line? Once you choose a line, every other line starts to move at light speed. Then you choose another line, and all the other lines move at light speed. It just always works that way. I chose one of those lines one day. It was molasses. I got stuck. It was just like it wasn't going to move for like days. And I got in this line, and all the other lines started moving at light speed. And I look up there, and there's this poor girl. She's probably 16 years old. You know, you talk about public humiliation. They put that in-training bar up there just to humiliate these poor things. This poor girl's having the worst day of her life. And every customer had a problem, like 6 in a row. You know, she had the wrong weight of the bananas, the wrong price on the broccoli, everything was going wrong. And this line is moving so slow because the manager kept coming over, and the manager kept coming over. And she's like 16 years old. You can see she's just getting frazzled, and the check wouldn't clear, and now it was the Visa, and she's doing this over and over. Finally, we work our way up in the line. She's leaning on the counter, and she's got these tears in the corner of her eyes. She's just distraught, and she's practically shaking. She can hardly help herself. It's the worst day of her life. And this elderly woman standing in front of me, she takes her stuff, and she puts her stuff on the counter. She was right in front of me. She reaches over the counter, and she pats the girl's hand. She says, "Honey, hang in there. I think you're doing a good job." And the girl, she just kind of stands up, and she says, "You just made my day." And now let's just back up, the rest of us guys, because we're in the line going, why don't they get more lines open? Why don't, and we're complaining about life not meeting my needs. And what I believe about life is that when we become apathetic, we stop seeing people in pain. And here's this elderly woman who says what did she take? She took a few seconds, a handful of words, she changed the girl's day. And what I think, she may have changed the girl's life. Because that girl's going to be standing in some line, she's 20 years later, and she's standing in line, she's seeing some poor girl having the worst day of her life. What do you think she's going to remember about her first day on the job? She's going to remember that act of kindness. And I really believe that about life. I think the only evidence of what you are is what you do, not what you say. I'm a kind person. I'm a loving person. I'm a compassionate person. And then we watch you when you go into Denny's or a restaurant and say, "Where's my coffee?" I'll believe it when I see it. It's what we do, not what we say we are, what we do. So with that, I wish you the best of luck staying connected with kids, and to think about those 5 ways that we can stay connected just by kind of taking a step backwards and doing our best for those kids. Thank you so much. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, and enjoy your evening. Thank you.